Hello, in this video I'm going to go over different UV options. Just be aware that in the intro to UVs I go over my process and I pretty much get everything done. 90% of the stuff I do will be done in that process where I'm doing CameraBased to get all my pieces as one object and no cuts, and then I am very intentional with my cuts by using the 3D cut and sew tool. And then I make sure everything is the consistent size by setting the textile density for everything to the same textile density and placing everything in a strategic way where I'm optimizing my space and making it clear to use. So the first thing I would want to show you is the different ways that you can create your UVs. So you have this automatic all the way to like contour stretch. These all exist up here too. So the one that's probably most popular is automatic, so I can click on that, and this will cut up your model based off the XYZ of your position of your model. So you'll see that it projects this from there, and you can rotate this. So but if you look close, it becomes a problem if you have an object that is more rounded, because it will do this kind of thing where it cuts it. It's good for more mechanical or box-like structures. So, but it also one problem with it is, so for instance, this is this piece, and you would think that it would put this piece next to it, but it's up there. So it doesn't really lay out your UVs in a way that is logical. It just tries to get everything in this first space. And then I'll show you another problem with it. So I'm going to create a sphere. So if you have something that's more organic, and then you do a automatic, you'll look here at the UV cuts. They do this kind of zigzag kind of thing. It's because it's trying to cut up a spherical object in only X, Y, and Z, and it's not thinking the most, it's automated processes do their best, but it's sometimes can give you kind of a shoddy work. So this is the kind of thing that I would want to avoid for all your work, is like this like zigzag kind of thing. You kind of want to keep it in edge loop so you can just deal with that in a clean way. But if you have a spherical thing, it probably would want to use spherical and do something like this, and yeah, so you can use different things like this to see how you can create your spherical projection. That might be useful. And then there's also, if I hit delete, there's cylinder, so I can go create polygon cylinder and move this over here, and I'll show you. So if I do cylinder, you can do different projections for different parts of your model. So if I go over here and view the grid, you'll see that the top part is bad and the sides are good. What then we can do is select all of it, and I'm going to deselect. I'm hitting control and dragging through the middle, and then I'll do another projection just for the top parts, or the top and bottom part of it. So I'm going to hit CameraBased, and then I have that, and now I can just do an unfold on everything, and then go to transform, and I will get that and set it on everything like that. So now I have a consistent size. You'll look on my UVs on my object, they look pretty good. I just have to lay them out in a square like in here. All right, so that's kind of the process for that. So you can look through here. Most of the time I use CameraBased, but there's planar, which is a plane on the side. Best plane, I'll show you that real quick. So I'll create a polygon cone and say I want a projection right on the side here, and it's and it's kind of like at an angle. You can use CameraBased and then select the face that you think you want the projection from, and then hit enter. Oh, maybe I have to select the faces first, then do CameraBased, and you'll see those ones are good. Like it's trying to find, it's putting a projection pretty much from the normal, so like from here down. So that's a way you can do that. Contour is more curvature stuff, but I haven't really used that stuff too much. So, and I'll just delete this. The other kind of tools, you have cut and sew here. So this is all those kind of different kinds of tools that are in the 3D cut and sew tool, but in different, like you can just select edges in here and say so stitch together, and it will stitch whatever it's connected to. I'll do the same thing here. So that's that. I'll do stitch together, and I'll do that, and that will move it. But if I do this one, it won't move the shells to it. It will just stretch it to the placement. So there's that, and then there's also a cut. So if you're like, I want that cut, you can go cut, and then now you can move this. There is, so we have unfold. So usually you don't unfold. If you hover over these tools, it says automatically move UVs for better texture space distribution. So you can click on that. Usually I just do unfold. And let's see. There's some also interesting tools up here for selection. So if you have overlapping UVs, which most of the time you don't want, you can click on this and it will notice that those are overlapping, and then that will give you kind of a check to make sure that you don't have that mistake. Like you can be really close and be like, let's see how close, something like that. Let's see if it will detect it. Overlapping, and it will detect it. So that's really nice. It kind of gives you a check. And texture borders, so you can do non-overlapping back faces if these were inverted. So that's kind of nice that you can pin things. So you can select like a corner and a corner here and say pin. So when you're unfolding things, that you don't accidentally mess up your pin or like that area. So you can do that kind of thing. Let's go align and snap, arrange and layout. So you can also go over here and say orient, and that will like rotate. So say these are all rotated orient shells, and then I can do something like this and orient shells. It kind of finds the closest rotation, I think that's how it works, and puts it from up and down, but it looks like it's messing up on these pieces. Let me unfold. Then it will, let's go down here and do stack and orient. So this will put all of them on top of each other and orient them. Let me fix this. This piece is, oh, it's because of the snapping. So I snapped I need to unpin them. Sorry, not snap, but unpin. So I'll go over to these UVs, select them, and unpin. And just be aware of that. Watch out for the pinning. Now I can go back to this and unfold. It goes back to that. And now I can select all these. Say I want to lay these out, but don't want to do it by hand. You can go over here and say layout, and it will do, I'll try layout in the best possible way that it can. There is a bit of it seems like it's not keeping the same scale consistent. It's okay, but just watch out that it doesn't really take into account like this piece is part of this piece, so it should be by it kind of thing. But it does a pretty good job in getting everything in there. So just be aware of that. And let's see what else. There's this movement tool. So say you wanted, we're not going over UDIMs yet for this assignment, but when we get to UDIMs, sometimes you just want a UV in this space but move it over. You can set these to different, like set this to 1, I believe, and it should move it over all the way to this UV space. So but for our UVs for this model, we want everything to be right like this. And let's see, there's also like a soft select. So if you want to do something where you're selecting a portion of it and distorting it like that, you can. There's also the grab tool. So you can go you can find those tools if you right click over it and go down to tools. There's like cut, grab, pin, pinch, sew, smear, symmetrize. Let's try to grab, and then you can do something like this if you're like trying to get away from some distortion. There is also these tools up here, so you can click on this. This will give a kind of a shaded view. So there'll be different colors. I think it turns like a pink color if you go back to, if I go up to here, select it and go to CameraBased. Create CameraBased. It kind of turns, when they're overlapping, it turns pink. So that's another kind of display tool that you can use. There's also this gives you a tool for figuring out your distortion. So let's do an automatic. Okay, and then I'm gonna use the grab tool. Do grab, and if I pull this out, the more I expand out that face, like stretch it, the bluer it gets, and the more it compresses, the redder it gets. So this piece is on the bottom of here. Let's see. So you can kind of see here on this. That's this piece. So usually I won't work with this on. I'll usually just start with this, and then I'm using this to diagnose if there's distortion, but that can be helpful. Texture borders, if you're not seeing your seams, that should be on. And then this is shell borders, so that kind of helps you see the shell a little more clearly. So like there, so that pink is connected to these ones, so you can see the connections. And this is the grid. If you want to work on a specific part, you can go and do isolate, and that isolates it in here. And then this is UV snapshot. This will create a image of your UVs that you can use to texture paint and inform your texture painting on a map like Photoshop. And in Photoshop you would bring it in and edit your textures that way. and have this in there to as an overlay to see where your geometry is. So hit close that. This button here, if you have a texture map on your object, you can click on that to see your texture map on in the viewport. Yeah, and this is also, here's opacity, I believe. So let's see if I can do that kind of thing. And you can expand these out, and there's more options. But yeah, let me turn that off. And this. So that is pretty much all the tools. There is something that might be useful. Let me go over here. Say you want to work on the settings of like layout. It's kind of tricky. You have to hit shift and left click on the button, and then you can get to the settings for this particular tool for like UV. So that's kind of a hidden little thing. So just be aware of that. And sometimes going to tool settings, whatever you're working on, whatever tool that you're in, that will give you options too. But like a shift left click, then you can go over and see, okay, different kind of methods of unfolding if it's not working the way that you want. So hopefully that's helpful. I'll see you in the next video.